Hi, I'm Paul Carr, and the topic of my talk is Energy for Sustainable Future from 1974 to 2100. Stopping fossil fuel burning is both an environmental and moral imperative and a scientific and economic challenge. The year 2024, last year, was the warmest year in record. And as you can see here, the warming since about 1970 has been going up dramatically, and recently the rate of warming has even increased slightly, as shown here. In our 21st century, the number of natural disasters has also been growing up dramatically. The extreme temperatures in red, shown here, have been going up dramatically since around 1990 or so. And similarly, uh, floods, shown in blue, and storms have been increasing even more rapidly. The two are interconnected. The higher temperatures um, basically give energy. There's the thermal energy of the ocean gets translated into the increased kinetic energy of storms like hurricanes and storms in general. And similarly, at higher temperatures, the atmosphere, particularly the water vapor in the atmosphere, holds more moisture at higher temperatures. So when it rains, there's more of it. And I got involved back in 1974, shown by this arrow. This is how I became involved like 51 years ago. And my involvement started 51 years ago while waiting in line to fill my gas tank during the 1974 oil shortage. Gasoline prices were increasing from like 30 cents per gallon to over $1 during that time period. Did some like me realize we had to toil against our oil dependence, which is a limited resource? Well, in 1979, a few years later, I installed 4 solar hot water heating panels on the roof of my home. I was burning oil at the time, and it was heating my hot water, and I had teenage daughters who insist on shampooing their hair before going to school, and my water bill was going up and up, and so I decided I should use the free energy from the sun to heat my hot water. And at that time, the solar photovoltaics for electricity were prohibitively expensive, just too costly at that point in time. Back in April of '09, here is a photo I took of Dr. Hansen, Dr. James Hansen, speaking at the New Hampshire State House in Concord, New Hampshire. And he said, "We have to figure out how to live without fossil fuels someday. Why not now before we've destroyed the creation?" Oil and gas plants, oil and gas reserves are predicted to be depleted by the year 2100. That was the reason for the 2100 in my title. Well, fast forwarding to this year, 2025, here are a few of the 126 solar panels recently installed to provide green energy for my 25-year-old Bedford Presbyterian Church in New Hampshire. And this is made possible largely by creation care theology of my church and enabling economics. The enabling economics are shown in this slide here, particularly a focus on solar panels. Back in '09, the cost of electricity for solar panels was as high as like 35 cents per kilowatt hour. And you can see how the prices come down dramatically so that now, along with wind, the price of wind and solar went down here maybe something 4 cents per kilowatt hour. And these energy sources, solar and wind, are now the cheapest ways of generating electricity, even cheaper than natural gas, shown over here. Natural gas is less expensive than coal, and that's the reason why natural gas has been replacing coal. The problem, of course, with wind and solar, they're not there all the time, particularly when you need it. So that's why people presently use fossil fuels because they're there all the time, particularly natural gas being the cheapest. And of course, nuclear is there all the time, along with geothermal. Unfortunately, the cost of nuclear in the United States has been going up. Most recently, built nuclear reactors have been very expensive. So my 50-year perspective, which I've illustrated for you, hopefully, green technology, new green technology, caring theology, and enabling economics are needed to save our ecology. And that's the theme of my book, Containing Climate Change to Save Us, published in January on Amazon.com. Energy for a Sustainable Future. I do cite in my book Project Drawdown, which ranks 100 ways of generating green electricity or saving us or stopping global warming, particularly from a technology perspective, onshore wind turbines for electricity, utility scale photovoltaic panels for electricity, like hundreds of solar panels like you saw in the church. Now, distributed residential photo panels are not as economic because of the higher cost of installation. You don't get the economy of scale in a residential home that you do in the hundreds to thousands of panels in utility scale. Further down the list in terms of impact, geothermal energy, which generates steam for generating electricity, and finally nuclear fission and fusion for the generation of electricity. Here's an example, a practical example of how small modular fission reactors are presently replacing coal burning. You can see both of them generate steam. The output of a nuclear reactor, basically a nuclear reactor takes the heat of the nuclear reaction and uses it to boil water to generate steam. And here's the steam coming out. And of course, a coal plant works the same way. Burning coal with its fossil fuel emissions, its carbon dioxide emission, also used to generate steam. And so the proposal that's being carried out in Wyoming right now with Bill Gates' TerraPower is he's developing small modular nuclear reactors to replace the dirty coal generation, but they both provide steam to turn the turbines that generate electricity. So this is happening in Wyoming, the site of the new nuclear plant in partnership with Bill Gates' TerraPower. The state will house the first natrium, that's liquid sodium, in partnership with Bill Gates' TerraPower Company and the U.S. Department of Energy and Pacific Core. The reactor is being built within one of 4 retiring coal power plants, signalizing greener energy future for the Wyoming economy has long relied on fossil fuels. I might just say that recently the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, has approved this new natrium reactor so that it can proceed and will be available maybe in a few years. We actually be installed and working in a few years. My next topic here is the potential of geothermal. The basic idea is to make steam by going deep into the earth where it's hot enough. And I'm particularly interested in illustrating here the temperature down 10 kilometers. I might mention that an ordinary typical fracking or oil well goes down a kilometer. And if we can go down about an order of magnitude deeper, as we're learning to do, say down to 10 kilometers, you can see in the eastern U.S. and I'm a resident of New Hampshire, and I'm particularly interested in the availability of geothermal energy. It's basically generated by the heat. The deeper you go in the earth, the hotter it gets. If you get down 10 kilometers, shown here, you can see the yellow color code. You get temperatures of the geothermal is down 10 kilometers or 175 degrees C. The yellow, about 175 degrees C, and that's more than enough to boil water. And you pipe the steam back into a rotor to a turbine to generate electricity. Present geothermal is people don't have to go that deep in the West, and you see that down 10 kilometers, it's a lot hotter than you really need. So presently, most geothermal don't have to go that deep, and that's why most geothermal plants but the advantage of geothermal is there all the time as opposed to wind and solar, and it's green. There are no carbon dioxide emissions. So that's another green technology. As we learn to drill deeper, it will be available everywhere in the United States. So chapter 18 of my book, How to Reverse Global Warming Now, I cite Project Drawdown, which ranks 100 ways of, of stopping global warming. I mentioned the technology, onshore wind, utility scale photovoltaic panels for electricity, but I didn't mention, and I'm putting these ranked 3 is plant-rich diets to stop methane emission from animals. Animals generate methane from both ends through their manure and through the digestive systems. Of course, cows, for example, sheep can digest the grasses, but in the process they belch out greenhouse gases. And so plant-rich diets to stop methane. And this is something that everybody can do immediately. And I've also mentioned photovoltaic, but I also mentioned geothermal for steam, for electricity, and nuclear fission and fusion to produce steam for generating electricity. Of course, the United States has about roughly 90 nuclear fission reactors, and we get about 20% of our electricity presently from nuclear fission, which is green, and fusion is progressing, and for particularly Commonwealth fusion systems. An MIT spinoff has obtained billions of dollars in fundings for fusion demonstration, which they see might be in 5 to 10 years that they'll be demonstrating a nuclear fusion. The advantage of nuclear fusion is that there's no radioactive byproducts. You're basically fusing heavy hydrogen into helium, and helium is the gas that you can sell. So there's no radioactive byproducts, and the helium or the deuterium is readily available in seawater. So you have an abundant supply of fuel, and so will be an ideal energy source, hopefully generated in the next 5 to 10 years. But nuclear fusion is presently the major source of green energy and electricity generation for sustainable energy. So sustainability. Adam and Eve's vegetarian diet in the Garden of Eden was sustainable. You can see them eating apples from the tree. This symbolizes when we were hunter-gatherers and before the invention of agriculture, and we humans would migrate to where during berry season they'd migrate to where the berries were. And here Adam and Eve eating apples from the tree that they didn't have to cultivate. They were hunter-gatherers. They just picked them from nature. So we need to right now we need to develop sustainable energy from heaven, namely solar and wind, and not deplete dirty fossil fuels from hell. So my 50-year perspective for sustainable energy, new technology, caring theology, enabling economics to save our ecology. So thank you for listening. Quiet, Jenny. Now I have to stop.